The 2018 NHL Entry Draft introduced many great talents and busts into the league. While some teams did very good in the draft, many failed to make smart picks and left disappointed with their draft choices. Today we will be diving into the draft to see how the players and franchises have developed since this draft occurred. In a year that saw Alex Ovechkin finally win a Stanley Cup after 13 years of being in the league, and Connor McDavid leading the league with 108 points, this year was monumental. The Vegas Golden Knights were brought into the league this year and were expected to be a bottom-tier team. Instead, they made it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals, being led by misfit players like Jonathan Marchessault and William Karls. The league saw some pretty awful teams, with the Sabres, Senators, Coyotes, and the Canadiens all getting less than 30 wins in regulation this season. The Sabres would have the best odds in the draft and win the first overall pick, while the Carolina Hurricanes would jump up 8 spots to the second overall pick. With the scene now set, let's head into round 1 of the 2018 NHL Entry Draft. With the first overall pick, the Buffalo Sabres would select defenseman Rasmus Dahlin. In his rookie year, he would contribute 44 points on a struggling Sabres team. He very quickly solidified himself as an elite talent coming out of the draft. In 2023, he would truly break out for 73 points and would become a Norris Trophy finalist, earning himself an $11 million extension leading up to the 2031 season. The Sabres picked the best defenseman in the draft and definitely got what they wanted with this pick. Moving on to the second overall pick, the Carolina Hurricanes would select Andrei Svechnikov. While he wasn't the player Carolina was hoping him to be, he has solidified himself as a very solid first-line forward in the NHL. His best season came back in 2022, where he would record 69 points in 78 games. He has had a very solid start to the 2023 campaign, and I believe that he will continue to flourish into a very good NHL player. I would say the Canes definitely hit on this pick, and now they have one of their key forwards for the future. With the third pick, the Montreal Canadiens selected Jesperi Kotkaniemi. He has not been as good as a pick as the first two, but has solidified himself as a serviceable middle six forward. He does not play for the Canadiens anymore and has played for the Canes the last 3 seasons. In his best season, he recorded 43 points in 82 games, which is a good season for him, but he has not lived up to the hype that surrounded him when he entered the league. I'd say the Canadiens missed with this pick because he's no longer present on their team, and pick number 4 could have been a way better option for their team. With pick 4 in the draft, the Ottawa Senators would select their future captain, Brady Tkachuk. Being the little brother of elite forward Matthew Tkachuk, he had some pretty high hopes put on him by Sens fans, and boy has he delivered. Not only is he one of the best young leaders in the NHL, he is one of the best power forwards around the league. Last season he recorded 83 points in 82 games and solidified himself as an elite player in today's game. He leads the 2018 draft class in points and is arguably one of the best players in the draft. The Senators got an absolute steal at number 4, and it helped solidify their team and gave them their future captain. With the 5th overall pick, the Arizona Coyotes selected Barrett Hayton. This pick turned out to be the worst out of the top 5, and Hayton up to this point has been quite a bust. He has only had one good season where he put up 43 points, but recently he has struggled to keep his success going. The Arizona Coyotes have been disappointed with this pick because they thought they had their future first-line center. Instead, they have been given a low-end top 6 forward. The top 5 in this draft were pretty good besides a couple of lower-end picks. Now we are going to skim through the rest of the first round and point out all the notable players. With pick 6 in the draft, the Red Wings picked Filip Zadina, who hasn't shown any signs of progressing into the NHL forward he was hyped up to be, and has been an absolute bust for the Red Wings. With pick 7, the Vancouver Canucks took Quinn Hughes, who is now one of the premier defensemen in the league and leads all defensemen in points this year. This was a very big steal at number 7, and the Canucks got exactly what they were hoping for. With pick 8, the Chicago Blackhawks selected Adam Boqvist, who is another defenseman, but hasn't turned out to be like the picks before him. While he isn't a complete bust, I think the Blackhawks missed out on other defensemen who are way better than him. This pick wasn't a bust, but not a very good pick for the Hawks. With pick 9, the New York Rangers took Vitaly Kravtsov, who is simply a bust. With pick 10, the Edmonton Oilers took Evan Bouchard, who is breaking out this season. Right now, he is 3rd among defensemen in points and has solidified himself as a top 4 D-man on the Oilers. This pick was an absolute hit for the Oilers, and I believe he will only get better from this point out. With pick 11 and 12, the Islanders selected Oliver Wahlstrom and Noah Dobson. Wahlstrom is a bust and hasn't been anything special at all, while Dobson has solidified himself as a top offensive defenseman in the league and was a very good pick for the Islanders. From pick 13 to 21, there is only one notable player. The rest of them are either busts or straight up haven't been good. Joel Farabee, selected by the Philadelphia Flyers, has been a very solid forward for the Flyers for a couple years now. He isn't a very elite player, but he is a very solid middle six forward for any team. Moving on to pick 22, the New York Rangers selected K'Andre Miller, who is a very talented offensive defenseman who shows massive upside. This was a great pick for the Rangers and definitely made up for their top selection at pick number 9. For the rest of the first round, the only notable player that was taken was Rasmus Sandin. Drafted by the Leafs, he has solidified himself as a top 4 D-man and has been slowly improving over the years. While he is no longer on the Leafs, this was a great pick for them. Round 1 had many busts or players that never got a chance to showcase their talent. There were many solid defensemen picked in this draft, and the lottery picks turned out to be some pretty solid players. I believe this is one of the weaker drafts in recent history, but it has still brought some very important players into the league. Looking at round 2, there were some notable players like Alex Romanov, Ryan McLeod, Kirill Marchenko, Sean Durzi, and Cale Addison, but it brought very little steals and elite talent. Out of the 31 players taken in round 2, only 6 players have recorded over 40 points in their career, and 14 players have yet to play a single game in the NHL. This is an astounding number of busts and players that never turned out to be anything. This was a very disappointing round 2, and it doesn't get better in the later rounds. In rounds 3 to 7, there were only 9 players out of the 155 taken who have solidified themselves as an everyday NHL player. Compared to the draft in 2017, 20 players who were drafted in the 3rd round or later have seen themselves become solid NHL players. The only late round steals of the 2018 draft were Yegor Sharangovich, Akira Schmid, Paul Cotter, and Philip Kurashev. These 4 players really stood out compared to the other players taken late in the draft. The team that drafted best this year was by far the Montreal Canadiens. While they didn't get what they wanted with their lottery pick, they selected Caden Primo, Jordan Harris, and Alex Romanov. This draft helped them shape their defensive core, along with picking up a solid backup goalie to round off their draft. Overall, the 2018 draft was one of the worst drafts in recent memory, where it was loaded with busts and littered with very few elite talents. While few teams fared well in this draft, most found themselves a little disappointed with how this draft turned out. This concludes today's video. Leave a comment telling me how you feel on this draft, and I'll see you guys in the next one.